Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the extra mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now your hosts, Jackson Mummy and Megan Saya from Celebration Bar Review.
Welcome to episode 317 of the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. This is Jackson, and I'm glad to be with you. Megan will be joining me in just a few minutes to talk about a wild and crazy week in the bar exam. It seems like I say that every week, but really this week was pretty believable, a lot of levels. It's also the week that baseball returned, at least in some form, I guess primarily to empty stadiums, and it made me think about October, when the World Series is usually played. But this year, October is going to mean something very different in the bar exam. It's going to mean really the big bulk of bar exam takers will be taking their test in October of 2020. We're going to break down all of the details and all of the states that made changes and decisions in the last few days to switch their exams to the online test in October. So lots of great information coming up for you in just a minute. So stick around for that. If this is your first time on the podcast, we're really glad to have you here. We do these podcasts both in video and in audio form. If you'd like to watch the video, you can go to celebrationbarreview.com/317. That's the episode number. If you prefer to listen to your podcast, you can do that by going to Apple Podcasts or iHeartRadio, radio.com, Spotify, just about any place that syndicates podcasts. Make sure that you subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the episodes. I do want to let you know before we jump into today's episode, a couple of special events coming up. The first is our free training webinar. It's called Now is the Best Time to Take the Bar Exam, Why You Should Ignore the Crowds and the Fear. Now, this is a training session that we've been doing since the COVID-19 pandemic began. It's proven to be pretty accurate in terms of what we predicted would occur, and more importantly, the strategies that we recommended for people in order to take and pass their exams. And I want to let you know that if you are in one of those situations where you're now looking at an October 2020 exam, you still have plenty of time to study, and we want to show you how to do that. This free training webinar will be offered a couple of times this week, and to register, all you have to do is go to the show notes in either the video or the audio podcast, and you can register from there. If you'd like to know more about the training webinar, go to celebrationbarreview.com/now, that's N-O-W, and you can get all the details. And then we'll see you on this training webinar. And by the way, one of the things that's really great about that training is that I saved the last 10 or 15 minutes of the training just to do a live Q&A to answer questions that people that are on the training have about their jurisdictions or about the strategy that we're suggesting and the approach that they should be taking. So hope you'll join me for that. There's some great offers that we make as well, and I think you'll find it really useful. And then the last thing I want to just let you know about is a brand new product that we've released in the last couple of weeks. It's called the Multi-State Bar Exam Nutshell Videos. If you need to study the multi-state types of questions, but you don't want to invest tons of hours and time and money into that, we have individualized each of the 7 multi-state subjects and put them into an audio-video format that's condensed down to 25 minutes per subject. And in those 25 minutes, you'll get all of the relevant legal principles and rules that control MBE questions in each subject. We've culled those principles and rules out over more than 40 years of experience now, and we put them into a video that I think you're going to find absolutely remarkable. We air compressed out the spaces in voices so that it goes very quickly. You put it on a loop to watch, and you'll see on the screen those principles and rules. You'll hear them read to you, and they're absolutely fantastic. And you can buy each individual subject for $47 a subject, or buy the entire set of 7 for only $247. The link to purchase is in the podcast show notes. I encourage you to check it out. It is a great product. We've had it out in the market now for a few weeks, and the response has been terrific. And I think that you'll find it really helpful. So if you need to just do a quick brush up on a single subject, $47 for one subject, and it goes in your permanent library. So not something that'll ever go away. You'll have it available as often as you want to watch and listen. So be sure to check that out. I think you'll like it. All right. Well, there was, as I said, a lot going on this week, a lot of movement towards October. And Megan joined me, as always, to break down all of the details and information of what was going on and to give our insights and hot takes, if you will, on what's happening around the country. So let's jump into that conversation. Well, hey, everybody, welcome. It is Friday, July 24th. Hi, Megan. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing as well as can be expected.
Hasn't it?
Yes, it has. It has. I think
yeah.
there's been maybe slightly more movement in this last week than we've seen in quite a few weeks. And that's saying something because there's been a lot of changes in the weeks preceding.
Yeah, so much going on. We're going to get to all of it today. There's an awful lot to talk about. In a normal world, right, Megan, we'd be just a couple of days from the bar exam.
Yes, yeah. This would actually be like all our questions would be those last minute, oh, how do I work on this kind of a question? Or where should I be in my studies? Or what do I do if my OPE scores are here or there? Or yeah.
Yeah. And we do have some people taking the July exam. So we know, yay, you guys, you're the frontline bar takers. So we do have some things to deal with there. I want to start with just a couple of quick announcements before we get into the update, because there are some important things going on. First, I want to remind everyone that we have this special masterclass coming tomorrow night. It's called Abundance for Bar Study. And I'm really excited about this. I know I've worn you out, Megan, talking about it, haven't I? It's like, really? Is he there yet? Is he there yet? This is really an exciting project for me. It's just under 90 minutes. We've got it recorded now and edited down, and I'm very pleased to present it to you. There is a link on your order tab where you can order it. If you're not able to attend tomorrow's presentation, it is recorded, and so you'll have it available to you, and you can watch it as soon as you're ready. It goes into your permanent library, so you can watch as often as you want, and we're going to encourage that. There is an 18-page participant workbook that comes with this, and we've got some cool stuff there. So, and we've had a bunch of people sign up for it. So I'm really pleased about that. I think that this gets at, as you and I have been talking, Megan, the stress levels are so enormous right now, right?
Yeah, they really are. There's just, change is hard. It's stressful, even when it's a positive change or a change for the better, not to mention difficult changes. It's just, it really raises everybody's anxiety levels palpably.
Yeah, and so this masterclass is designed to give you 5 specific techniques to deal with that and to change your mindset. And it really incorporates a lot of what we do in boot camp, but it's all compressed into one segment. So I really encourage you, if you've been thinking about signing up for this and I don't know if I want to do it, it will make a difference. I assure you of that. So you can go ahead and place your order, and then we will see you for the masterclass. Well, I think we should go ahead and jump in to all of the things that happened. I think even before we went on air just a few minutes ago, we had some more changes happening, right?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of different state changes. So be patient. If anything changed in your state, we're going to talk through it. At the end of these state changes, we're also going to talk through, for both California and Texas, they gave really detailed procedure documents. And so we do want to talk through kind of what that's looking like in those states, since we have a lot of students who are taking the exam there. And then we'll move into some student questions about what to do with. All right. So the first big one is New York. They opted into the October 5th through 6th online exam. You'll remember last week they had canceled their in-person September exam. So they are now doing the October online exam. However, and this is a big however, they have made some interesting choices about who's eligible to take it. So in all the other jurisdictions who are doing the online exam, anybody who would otherwise be eligible to sit for the bar in that state is eligible to take the online exam. In New York, however, they have automatically registered anyone who is registered for the September exam. They've put them over into the October exam. And then the only other people who and that was, if you'll remember, a very small pool of applicants, a very specific pool of applicants. And the only other people that they're letting apply to take this one are JD candidates who graduated in 2019 or later, who previously took the bar in New York and failed no more than 2 times, and want to sit for the remote exam. So Jackson, talk about what in the world they could be thinking. Why would they limit an online exam, which has no coronavirus large gathering concerns?
Yeah. And I'm going to be blunt about this. I think that this is a huge mistake by the New York bar examiners. I think it is a very transparent attempt to limit the opportunity for people to pass and take the New York bar. And it is frankly discriminatory. There is no reason in an online setting where you don't have physical capacity limits to not allow people to sit for the exam. And as we're going to see in other states that have switched over to online, they opened up their registration. They didn't restrict it. This move by New York is an attempt, in my view, to artificially boost the chances of first-time bar takers, as though they need any help anyway. I mean, first-time bar takers represent 7 out of 10 of the passing seats around the country. And I think that what the New York bar is doing here is simply saying, we don't want you in the bar in New York if you failed a couple of times, and we don't even want to give you a chance to prove that you deserve to be there. And it runs completely contrary to what every other bar jurisdiction in the country is doing. As we look at states like California and Oregon and Washington, and now today New Hampshire, North Carolina, these are jurisdictions trying to lower their scores and admit more people. And New York is going exactly the opposite direction. I think that it is reprehensible. And I think that the New York judiciary and the New York bar examiners need to be called to task for this. Maybe they thought they could slip this through and no one would care, or that the people who have failed more than twice aren't a constituency that is worth listening to. Let me just tell you, our podcast gets listened to by thousands of people, and I'm not yelling, but I'm mad and I'm outraged that they have done this, and that they did it with no warning and for no discernible reason except trying to create an exam that's virtually, essentially it's going to be all first-time takers. There'll be a handful of people that will qualify, but between that 2019 and you had to have taken the New York bar, but you couldn't have failed more than twice. They're limiting that group. And I think you pointed this out. You have to write and apply to take the exam if you're in that setting. You don't get an automatic entry in. You have to be, I don't know, what are they going to do? Do a blood test? What's going on?
Yeah, I know. They just said that you can request to sit if you weren't already being allowed to sit or didn't have a seat in the September exam. You'd have to write in and request to be allowed to sit. It's very strange. There's no reason related to coronavirus to restrict the number of people taking your online exam. So it feels a bit like like using coronavirus as a cover, because it gives you the opportunity to slip in what you'd like to do because, hey, everything's topsy-turvy right now, when really there's no discernible reason related to health or safety to limit the number of people taking an online test.
Yeah, it's punitive and it's wrong. And so a week ago, New York said, we canceled the exam entirely, go home, everybody. Then they said, well, in August, we'll have some decision from our task force. Well, they didn't even wait till August. They waited, 2 or 3 days. And then they, out of the blue, announced this online test, which we see, and I think as an overview, we saw a bunch of states moving to the October 5th and 6th exam. We're going to talk about all of those. But clearly, there is a mad dash for that date. And that's going to become the new July bar exam this year. It's pretty clear that's what's happening. But I think that what New York is doing is just chaotic at best. That's the best interpretation you can put on it. And it's sinister is the worst interpretation. And I really hope that by calling attention to this, and I hope that as others call attention to this, New York is going to step back from the brink and say, well, wait a minute, we really can't justify what we're doing here, and maybe we should open this up. I'm not saying it's beyond the realm of possibility, because a week ago there was no exam, so things can change. And we saw several other states this week who insisted they weren't going to make a change. So I think you should consider the possibility that it still could happen. But if you were a prior New York bar taker, or you took the bar outside of New York in the UBE and wanted to come in and had failed before, keep studying, keep working. It is possible that they're going to open up once they get called into the spotlight here and it becomes clear what they've done. So that's my take on New York. Not happy with those guys at all.
Yeah, it's not great. All right, then Georgia, they canceled their September exam and they went to the October 5th through 6th remote exam. So if you're in Georgia, you have an extra month now to study and you'll be taking it online. This is what Georgia has said. They're going to be doing the 100 multiple choice questions from the NCBE. And it will be all the same normal multi-state MBE law covered. So you need to, it's half as many questions as normal, but you need to study. We're just going to keep reiterating this. You have to study all the same subjects, all the same things. Then they will have one, they call it a skills performance question prepared by the NCBE. That's an MPT. So if you see that, I don't know why they called it that, but it's a performance test. You're going to get the same multi-state performance test that everyone else taking the exam in a traditional UBE jurisdiction gets on October 5th and 6th. And then they're going to be doing 3 essay questions. So that's a switch from the norm. And then I also want to point out, I just want to be clear with these things because I think the language was really unclear with Georgia with how they said all these. So they call them 3 essay questions on Georgia law. However, the essay questions, the subjects that they list as possible subjects that can be tested on the essay questions include the multi-state subjects as well. So please do not only study the Georgia law pieces. If you are thinking, oh, that's all it's going to be on the essays, you also need to practice. I mean, they said con law is in there, contracts, crim law and procedure, evidence, federal practice and procedure. I don't know why they said 3 Georgia essay questions on Georgia law, because they did include as possible topics federal multi-state law. So
I think the self-centered arrogance of bar examiners cannot be overstated. It's all about us, right? Attention on me, focus on me. I think the big change here is going from 4 essays down to 3 essays. Now, we've had some states, I love the characterization of this, we're going to talk about it somewhere else. One state said, I think it was Texas, said, we're going to give you more essays because it's an opportunity to prove, to improve your performance or something.
Yeah.
Right? But Georgia has gone the other direction and said, well, we're going to give you fewer. And of course, the Plan B UBE states on October 5th and 6th are also going to be 3 essays of the multi-state essay exam rather than 6. Now, going from 6 to 3 is a bigger change than from 4 to 3. But remember that Georgia uses a 45-minute essay question. So it really means that more weight is on each of the 3 essays that you write. And I think it's important to keep that in mind. We don't know a whole lot about the scoring methodology yet in any of these online exams. I mean, we're getting bits and pieces from different jurisdictions, but there's nothing uniform about it. And so we're assuming that in a Georgia exam with 3 essays, 1 performance test, and 100 multiple choice questions, it'll be an all new world. There isn't going to be the minimum cutoff that they had before where they wouldn't even read your essays unless you got to, I think it was 115 on the multi-state as a scaled score. Well, that doesn't exist anymore. So I don't know what that is. I mean, do you have to get 50 of the multiple choice questions correct and they won't read your essays? They haven't really been clear about that. Study for everything, work on everything, as you were saying, Megan. And we will continue to monitor this and put out information to our students, certainly, about the Georgia exam as we get a little bit closer. The good news is you got an extra, in Georgia, what did you get, an extra month? So that's great. There's a lot of subjects in Georgia to study. Everything's fair game. It's all on the table, and you should be aware of that. I also think we're going to see a lot more about what this performance test is. I continue to believe that no one really has thought all the way through this process or tried to do one online. I doubt if there's a bar examiner in America that's tried to do a performance test online yet. So I think once they do that, they're going to go, oh, this could be difficult.
We'll talk a lot more about that when we talk about California.
Yeah, California is actually a little more progressive here than some other states. So that's what I see in Georgia. It's a big change. And again, Georgia was one of those states where, by God, we're going to do it and no masks and meet me at the statue. But I think that they're beginning to see the light maybe a little bit here. So that part was good news.
Yeah. All right. North Carolina is still going forward with their in-person July exam. They said that they have 751 people registered for the exam. So still a big group, and they will still be going forward with it. However, their big news is that they have lowered the passing score for both the July 2020 exam and the February 2021 exam. So only those two for right now. They've lowered it from 270 down to 268. So Jackson, you want to have any thoughts on why they might have done that?
No, it's good news. I mean, I'm glad they're doing it. My first thought was, well, they must not have a lot of bar applicants. And then you said that they had announced 750. And we went and did some research, and that's just slightly less than they had last year in July. I don't know if it's some attempt to recognize that there is an offset for the stress and the difficulty of taking the exam. I'm not sure if, hey, we're going to make you come to an in-person exam in the middle of COVID-19, and we're going to give you 2 points off because it's a miserable environment to be taking a test in. Maybe, although that doesn't explain the February 2021. I mean, and why reduce the score for 2 exams and not permanently like California did? There is really very little sense or rational reason behind these things. And I know people are going to ask us just why they look. We don't really know. I mean, I don't know that they know why. They just, okay, let's just lower the score. One of the interesting things about this score reduction, at least for these next 2 exams, is that because North Carolina is UBE, that means score portability applies in here as well. And they were explicit about that. So what that means is if you get a 268 somewhere else, that's good enough to get into North Carolina, whereas before you would have needed a 270. So if you were scheduled to take the North Carolina exam next week, take it. If you're taking it somewhere else and it's a UBE score, not the October 5th and 6th, I want to be clear about that. If you're taking the uniform bar exam somewhere in this season, July, September 9th, September 30th, and you get better than a 268 or better, and you want to practice in North Carolina, you'd be able to do that. So, but I mean, it is mystifying, isn't it? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I guess it's that don't look a gift horse in the mouth, right? Like, so.
Or gift point, yeah.
Yeah, enjoy the. You got a 2-point gift there, so yeah. I mean, it's a positive thing. Also, it's something to I mean, just keep that in mind. Even if you're taking it not in North Carolina, if you're taking the UBE tests, so. Again, July, September 9th and 10th, or September 30th, October 1st. Those are the UBE tests this year. Yeah, you that may open up another state that you could practice in that if you get right in that little score range. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful for some of you. All right, next we have Connecticut. So this is going to start our string of states who completely bailed on the September UBE possibilities and went for October. So Connecticut was supposed to have it on September 30th through October 1st. They canceled that and are doing the remote exam on October 5th and 6th. Again, this is not a UBE exam. If you take it in Connecticut on October 5th and 6th, it's only good for Connecticut. They are working on reciprocity, but as of now, they do not have it. So if you were scheduled to take it in Connecticut and registered for that, you need to figure out, do you want to practice in Connecticut? And if not, double check, see if they get the reciprocity for where you do want to practice. Otherwise, you're going to have to push your exam back till they go back to UBE.
Yeah. Interesting how many states sort of rushed into the void on October 5th and 6th after California made
Yes.
the decision.
Yeah, right. Which, I mean, I remember when the October 5th and 6th was first announced, and I think you were a bit more skeptical, like, how are they going to give the bar online? And said, I don't know. I think there's going to be some people who it's real appealing to if coronavirus is still looking bad at the end of the summer. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just a grumpy old man. I what's all this I hear about? I just,
yeah. Well,
but,
and
the NCP is with me. They don't like it either. I just want to point
no,
that
definitely. Yeah, and you were right that what happened was as soon as California went for it, we're seeing all the rest of the dominoes fall. So we've got Idaho. Oh, actually, I'll go to a different one first. So Illinois is another one. They canceled their September 9th through 10th exam and replaced it with the online October 5th through 6th. which Illinois is funny, right? Because
Just last week?
yes, yeah, they
Just
had
last
just
week.
said,
We're not going, you've got to come to the September 9th and 10th. There won't be an online exam. No way, never, no how. Isn't going to happen. Whoops. There it is, October 5th and 6th.
yeah, exactly. I think it's just a couple of days after telling everyone, we won't even tell you which city you're taking the test in. So you can't even get a hotel room until 2 weeks before the exam. And then they turned around and said, just kidding, we're going to do online. So I think this is good news, honestly, for people taking it in Illinois. Certainly, I think it would have been pretty stressful to not know literally what city you were taking it in to make any travel arrangements until 2 weeks before the exam.
But hey, there's lots of hotel rooms available.
Right, yes. As I said, don't worry about getting a hotel room. Yeah.
But now,
flights or rental cars or whatever.
Yeah. But now you get an extra month.
Yeah.
And you have half the number of MBE questions and you have half the number of essays. I mean, it's 3 essays instead of the 6 that would have been in the UBE. So that's pretty amazing. So I think if you're an Illinois bar taker, you got to like this, right?
Yeah, I definitely think it's positive. All right, then New Hampshire is another state. They canceled their September 9th through 10th exam and replaced it with an online one, October 5th through 6th. They said they are working on reciprocity as well. I think we can assume from what we've seen, there seems to be a lot of geographic reciprocity. So I would definitely keep that in mind. There seems to be a lot of, some states are willing to work with pretty much anybody. Others seem to be like, hey, we'll do the mid-Atlantic, or that's really the 2 areas we've seen is we've seen the mid-Atlantic reciprocity, and then we've seen some New England reciprocity. So as we see this Connecticut, New Hampshire switching over, joining other states in New England area who are doing the October 5th and 6th, you may see some reciprocity. Like you said, don't expect reciprocity in states like California, Texas, Florida.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen for the big ones. But if your state's already in the UBE, generally, they are more likely to strike a deal. Okay, then Ohio, that's one of our first Midwestern ones, I think. They canceled September 9th through 10th, replaced it with an online October 5th through 6th exam, and they say they are working on reciprocity as well. So if you're taking it in Ohio, check and find out if you can get into the state that you need to if you're not looking to practice in Ohio.
Yeah, and that was a UBE state. So you lose. So in these states like New Hampshire, Ohio, Illinois, you're losing a UBE exam and you're gaining the 2-day online shorter test.
Right. Okay. Then we have 2 states that kind of did something a little different. I like this one. Idaho said they're still doing the July exam, but they've added on the October 5th and 6th remote exam. So I like that because it's basically giving people the option, if you need UBE or you feel comfortable with taking an an in-person exam and you want to get it done with, you can take it next week. Or you can opt into taking a remote exam, which again would only qualify you to practice law in Idaho. So if you're state specific, but if that's where you are and you don't need the UBE score portability, that's a great option for you. So that's kind of the first I think we've seen of that where they're.
Yeah, and it's really late in the game. I mean, if you're planning to take the exam next Tuesday, it's a little late to say, oh, guess what? You got a new option here. And that's a huge jump from July to October. You're talking a couple months here. So I imagine there will be some people jumping out of the July exam. I don't know how many people take the test in Idaho, not many. But I imagine a few of them will jump out and give themselves the benefit of another couple months of study. So it's an interesting approach.
Yes. All right. And then our last change is Wyoming added September 30th through October 1st to their July administration. So this is late in the game for this one as well, where we haven't seen this in a while, that we've got a state who is giving the July exam and then is added a second in-person option for people.
There aren't many people in Wyoming, obviously. And so I guess that's their theory, is that we can socially distance the 100 people taking the exam. And I think it probably makes sense given the rural nature of some of those states. We might see some rural states jumping into a September exam. Although when you look at the map nationally right now, that September 9th and 10th date is just shrinking like crazy, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I don't know if any states are going to be left. I mean, just a handful. And the September 30th was never a big test date. And that's what makes it weird that Wyoming went to that date. I don't know that any state has announced a September 30th date in a while. That was kind of a surprise. So I think the big bubble is obviously October 5th and 6th.
All right, so next we're going to talk about California for a little bit. So we got a lot of information from California about their exam procedures and what the exam is going to look like. So bear with us if you're not California. This is helpful with figuring out seeing what some states are doing with the online test. Like we're seeing, you may think you're not taking an online test, and you may find out with no notice that you are in fact taking an online test, as we're seeing. So anyway, I thought this was really helpful. So if you are in California, they're going to do exactly what we were thinking in terms of the schedule. So it will be day one will be the 5 1-hour essay questions with a 1-hour lunch break in between. So that's it. Day one is only the California hour-long essays. Then day two will have the 100 multiple choice questions in the morning, 2 50-question sessions, then a break, and then the 90-minute performance test in the afternoon. So that
and on those, let me just say, on those multiple choice, it's a 90-minute session break and then a 90-minute session, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So for that, I know we had a question about it last week, and we said we're assuming, now we can confirm, if you're taking the attorney's exam, you do have to do both days now. You will not have to do the morning of the second day because you don't need to do the multiple choice, but there will be writing components on day one and day two. The important thing for everyone, I think, to note about this, anybody who's going to an online test, is most jurisdictions are realizing that the online test takes a lot longer than the in-person does to administer. So that's why you see like California saying, we're going to do 5 essay questions over an entire day with nothing else in there. You've got a lot of jurisdictions have contracted the number of essays that they're giving because there are timing concerns. California will be doing the 15-minute break between each essay. So you are not allowed to leave your webcam during test time. So that means you need to stay there. You're going to do an hour test, then your webcam goes off. You get 15 minutes after each one, except for, of course, when you get the hour-long lunch break. So you'll have that between each essay. You'll have 10 minutes after the break to log back in. So you think about it, that is a lot of extra time. If every time in between every essay, you're getting 15 minutes plus another 10 minutes to log back in, there's going to be a lot of downtime on these days.
Yeah. And just to be clear for everybody, California had the experience of the first year baby bar in June, seems so long ago, and that was the only online bar exam that's ever been given. So this state is way ahead of everybody else, and that's why we're giving extra attention, because we think that what they learned on the baby bar is probably where everybody else is going to end up, or something close to it. Mm-hmm. So if you're a Florida bar taker and you're thinking, well, why do they keep talking about all this stuff? Well, I think Florida is going to end up having to do a whole lot of what California is doing, and I think it's applicable. So that's right. The reasoning.
No going back to edit any essays or performance tests. Once you're done with that piece, it's gone. So obviously you can't flip through. You're not taking your order. On that multiple choice, you can go back and forth between questions. Obviously, we're going to suggest that you not do that and you just push through, but it does have a mechanism for allowing you to move between the questions. Okay, so one of the really exciting things about California, which we're just really going to hope happens for anyone who has to take the performance test, is that in California, they are going to let you only on the performance test have 8 blank pieces of paper, and you get to write notes down for yourself. So that's super exciting. You're going to literally have to hold up each front and back, each piece of paper before you take the performance test. So get unlined, I would get computer paper, just printer paper, 8 pieces. You cannot have any more in the room even. So don't have a big pile, just count out your 8 pieces. But that's super exciting, because I know Jackson's been ringing the alarm bell about performance tests online and how in the world are we supposed to do this? This should help.
Yeah, I think it will help. I think it's kind of weird to think, hold up my sheet of paper and then flip it, into it. But it's a solution that nobody else has come up with yet. So this could be one of those where I think other states that are doing the MPT may say, okay, that could be done. I mean, and if I think it's got possibilities. I know some of you are already trying to figure out invisible ink. Don't. But I think that it's a good step.
Yeah. definitely. I know we had questions last week about whether they were going to allow desktops. They are not. California is not allowing desktops. So even though you're taking it at your home, you still have to use a laptop specifically. And there will be, you only can have one monitor. So no, you can't set it up so you've got two. I know that would be nice. My assumption is it's probably a big concern about fairness, that I think you would be at a huge advantage if you had two screens. And so they're not, they haven't said that.
Yeah, and I know some of you have these massive screens that you've hooked up to your laptops that you can't do that. Now, some of you have vision problems, some of us older people, and you want a bigger screen. You can't do that either. If you think you need a bigger screen and you can't work on a laptop, you need to apply for accommodations now, because it is a regular standard laptop. Now, there are different size laptops to be sure, but I'm using a MacBook Pro at 15 inches. That's probably about as big as a laptop screen is going to get for you. So be careful about this and be aware of it. It's a big change.
One good thing that I think they learned from the baby bar examination online is they have said you will not be penalized if you lose internet connectivity during the actual exam. So the only times they're requiring you to be connected to the internet is when you're doing your login and when you're uploading. And so it's okay if your internet goes in and out or whatever while you're actually taking the exam. What they are concerned about is if you have 10 minutes, I believe, from the start of each section to start. And if you haven't logged in with the password by then you're done. That's it. You can't take any more. So that's the only place where internet connectivity is important. So I think that's a positive thing. I will say another piece that they definitely learned directly from the June baby bar is a lot of people had trouble knowing that they were supposed to go to an external ExamSoft website to get the password. So they were just in the ExamSoft software waiting for it to start, and it didn't start. So this is the hard thing with not having a proctor right in front of you to tell you the directions. So what they're going to do is they're going to do a practice run through that's required. So everyone will practice taking the test. You will practice going to the website, getting your password, logging in. So you'll go through that whole procedure. If you need to do that, if you have any questions about it, you need to contact them contact them that day and get it cleared up. Because we do know we had some students who lost a couple minutes of the first question because they didn't realize that they had to go to the website first. And apparently it was a big enough problem that the bar examiner specifically said, we're going to fix it this way with this remedy.
Yeah. And California is using ExamSoft. That's their provider. Other states like Florida are using ILG, which we're not familiar with. So the process may be different. And so you want to be really diligent about following up and making sure that what the rules are in your jurisdiction, how they're doing it. I'm not sure that each of these software companies will be doing things the same way, or that the monitors even will be doing things the same way. So be aware of that.
Yes. Also, I should note you will be able to highlight in the performance test. So I think that's really, obviously it's on your screen, so there won't be any physical highlighting, but you will be able to highlight on the screen, which I think should be very helpful along with the scratch paper. Maureen said they could let you print the file in the library. That's not going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen anywhere. There's too big of a concern with not everyone has access to a printer and paper and ink and all that. So they just won't be able, because you would have to have it on site with you in that specific room, and there's just too many fairness issues with that. So I would not expect that anywhere, that they're going to allow you to print out a performance test. Okay, then you can put they'll have timed reminders in there if you want to, and you'll be able to cut and paste. And I think that's mostly what I think we wanted to say about California.
All the same things that we've heard before about no food or drink.
Yes,
you can bring in one pillow.
Right. With no pillowcase on it.
No cell phones. I mean, it's just going to be tough. No question.
It is. But I think this is probably the best. I will say with California, something you do need to know is that they are not going to release the scores until mid-January 2020. So I know then you're practically in the February exam, and then the answer files won't be released until up to 4 weeks after that point. So if you are unsuccessful on this one, I don't know. We're talking about
certainly not going to Tuesday and Wednesday of February. That's
right. Sure. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and Anur asked, will you be able to copy and paste? Anur, so far the software where the states where they've talked about that, yes, you would be able to copy and paste your notes. Oh, that's good. Jen asked, you cannot copy and paste. I don't believe you're going to be able to copy and paste from the performance test, but you should not need to because you're not copying, right? Like this is my writing coaching coming out. You are not copying no matter what, word for word. You're not copying words from the performance test into your booklet. You're putting everything in your own words anyway. But yes, you can copy and paste from your notes. So if you write the notes up on the screen, it has like a note taking part. You can copy and paste from that.
And let me just say, before we get to the October 5th and 6th exam, we will know more about all of this, and we will do some additional training for our students on performance tests. It's just too early to do it because we just don't know enough about how they're going to set it up. Some states may go to 3 screens, 3 divisions of your screen. Some are going to 2. We're just waiting for some uniformity here to get a sense of how it's going to be administered, and then we'll give you more. For now, do your practicing online. That's the most important thing I would tell you.
Definitely. And California is saying that they will allow you to, they're going to require you to do the mock exam, they're calling it, because they'll take your picture then for the actual exam day then as well. But also they're going to put past performance tests and essays for California in the software beforehand, so you can literally practice taking with real questions. So I would highly recommend that. You don't need to do that now. When we get closer to October, I would use some of those. Certainly practice online now on your own, but then when you get closer, you can practice within the software using real questions. So they'd be the same ones that we've got in our books, but actually already plugged into the software for you. So I think that will be really helpful as well. So
yeah.
Yes.
And if you can't do the exam online, there are some accommodation requests and in person, and it's fairly detailed. I don't think we need to go through that here, but you should look at the report or the letter that came from the Cal examiners, follow those details and do it now. Don't wait.
Yes. All right. So next, our last state that we need to talk about specifically, thanks guys for hanging in there, I know this is a lot, is Texas. So they gave an update on their in-person and their online exam procedures. There's a lot in here. I don't necessarily want to go through all of it, but I think we need to point out a few odd things. So Texas, if you are taking it in person in September, you will be taking it at a specific hotel. They have a few different hotel sites, and you will take it in your hotel room with the door open. And proctors will be monitoring, like walking through the hallways to monitor. I wish I could give you more information. It sounds insane to me, and I wish that I could explain to you why or what that looks like or how I don't know. I honestly didn't believe it when we first heard it. I said, I need to see proof. Like, where did this come from? Because that cannot possibly be right, but it's right. So yeah, so I don't really know what that's going to look like, but we'll keep our eyes open.
That's the damnedest way to do an in-person exam I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. At what point do you just say, never mind, we're just going to do it online? But yeah. So as of right now in Texas, if you're doing the in-person in September, you will be taking it in a hotel room and they will monitor.
With someone peering in your hotel room and the housekeeping hopefully not there.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. You don't have to wear a mask when you're in your hotel room while you're taking it. I mean, certainly it's a safer way to do it. You're not going to be in a room with other people, but it is
in a hotel.
Yes. Yeah, it is strange. They did say no additional fees will be due for using the hotel room through the end of the exam. So just they're not going to charge you extra for that. But yeah, was there anything else, Jackson, about Texas specifically that
just to say that the difference remains the number of essays, the 6 essays in the September exam, 12 online, October 5th and 6th. There's some details about the scoring percentages. They changed just a bit. The essays will be worth 30% of your exam score in September and 40% of your exam score in October. The difference being the multi-state will go from 50% value of the score in September to 40% in October. So we'll have more to say about that as we get further along, but we just wanted you to know that Texas is certainly, as usual, being Texas. So there's some interesting things. And there is no other state doing anything close to that hotel room idea.
Yeah.
That's unique.
Yeah, I will say too for Texas, note that they're not allowing you, they said as of now, so hopefully they'll change, but they're not allowing you scratch paper on the performance test, but they are allowing scratch paper for the essays. So yeah, I don't know. But they did say, they said, we will let you know if that changes, which tells me that they're thinking about changing it, because otherwise I don't think you would say that. So anyway, so I know that was a ton, but that's kind of.
We didn't say anything about Florida because they didn't change anything. They're just trucking along towards oblivion on August 19th. So
yes. Okay. Yes. So that's where we are. So now we had a really good question from students. I know a lot of people have had this question. Can you please explain reciprocity to me? I realize this isn't a UBE test, so I can't take my passing score and try to be admitted into, let's say, New Mexico, unless New Mexico has reciprocity with DC. But normally DC has a higher UBE score than New Mexico. So how does this help me?
Yeah, reciprocity ignores exam scores entirely. All you have to do is get admitted into the state where you're sitting for the exam. And once you've been admitted into your October 5th and 6th state, if that state or jurisdiction has reciprocity with another state, and you've passed state one's test at whatever score they gave you that was passing, then you don't have to worry about your score at all. You can simply apply, pay the fees, and with reciprocity, you'd be waived into any or all of the other states. So it is an opportunity. If you've picked your October 5th and 6th state properly, you might, for example, get whatever. I mean, we're not even using a UBE scale because it's not 200 multiple choice questions. So it's hard to even know what that number would look like. But whatever the number is that you get in state one, maybe that's a lower number than state two had, but if they had reciprocity, you get the benefit of jumping in. This is very different than score portability under the UBE. It has nothing to do with scoring. It's just you're into state one or not. Now, if you fail in state one, there is no reciprocity. It doesn't matter if your score would have been good enough in another state that gave the exam in October. So it's all about passing the state you're sitting in and then seeing what states have reciprocity. I expect those reciprocity agreements will continue right up until the exam date, maybe even beyond it. And we'll keep you informed on those. And on our website, we do have a page called Fall 2020 Exam Updates. We're updating all these changes that we've announced today, as well as the reciprocity information as we get it. So stay aware of that, but really just focus on your state that you're taking, and then we'll see what happens when the results come out.
And then I had a question. Any chance Texas will allow online MPRE for August 2020?
We have not heard anything about an online MPRE. It seems likely to me, since all these other tests have gone online, you would think it would happen, except the national conference is the one that writes the MPRE. And again, they are not doing their full-length exams. So I don't think that they have, I doubt if they've even given all that much thought to it, right?
Yeah, they said, I think July 10th was the last time they updated it. And they said at this time, the August MPRE is proceeding as scheduled, and you'll get an email from your testing center if it changes.
Yeah, the other reason for this is that MPRE is given all over the country, lots of locations, so they could socially distance far easier on that test than they would elsewhere. But I would say if you're registered to take the MPRE in August, you probably should assume it will be an in-person exam.
Yeah. I mean, I'm remembering I took my MPRE in a classroom, like it was maybe at a high school or something even, and it was
Virginia?
Yeah, in Virginia when I was in law school, and it was like there were maybe 30 of us in the room, maybe. So I think it's a much easier to keep that small. And then Maureen asked, how is October 5th through 6th test going to be graded?
Well, it depends. Every state is different, and that's part of the challenge right now. We have some information from some states, not a lot of information. The October 5th and 6th is more complicated because it depends on whether or not you're in a UBE jurisdiction giving the Plan B in full. So those states will probably use something that looks more like one another. California on October 5th and 6th will be completely different. Georgia on October 5th and 6th will be completely different. Texas will be completely different. Florida in August will be completely different. I think that for right now, don't worry about how it's going to be scored. It doesn't affect anything in the way you study. In other words, there's nothing going to be so radically different that you don't study something or you overstudy something else. There is, and I want to, it's a great question, and I want to really emphasize this. At this moment, keep your head down and just keep working. We will let you know the changes you need to make, but it is too early to make those changes because too much is in flux. And what I don't want people doing is overcompensating and overreacting to rumor in particular about, oh, well, it's going to be this way in Maryland. Well, maybe, but probably not. I mean, we're seeing these changes even when the examiners say we're absolutely doing one thing, then they don't do it. So you don't want to oversteer right now, and you don't want to anticipate problems that don't exist. So I'm going to ask everybody to just take a deep breath, be patient, and wait for this to sort out just a little bit. The move by California to the October test date caused this avalanche to come this week. And it's going to take a while for all of that to sort itself out and for the examiners around the country to kind of catch their breath and say, all right, now that we've said we're going to be there, how do we do this exam? And then ultimately, later, how do we score it? I think the scoring is the last thing they're thinking about right now, don't you?
Yeah, I think the logistics are much more important to them at this moment. And for you, if you're looking at the October exam, it's a very, very long way away. So you really don't want to get bogged down in that kind of stuff right now. But I know
try to stay out of that. Yeah, I know it's tempting.
Important. Yeah. All right, some study strategy questions. Mpre just asked, I'm doing questions 100 to 200 for each subject. I broke a set of 100 into 4 mini sets of 25. Should I review each time before I do a set of 25?
Well, there's a couple things that I would suggest here. First of all, we have the new multi-state nutshell videos. I think this is a great way to be able to review a subject in 25 minutes or less. And you can buy an individual subject or you can buy the whole package at a discounted course price. And I've gotten great feedback from people that are using it. I think that's one important technique that I would be using right now to review. But the very first thing I do is get this nutshell video. I think it's really the best way to get that quick, focused review. It's a video and audio text running together, air compressed down so there's less space in the words, and you just put it on and let it run. And as I say, the response has been fabulous. So I'm excited about that.
We got a couple of questions about increasing MBE scores. How do I do that, especially now if I'm in a jurisdiction where I'm only going to have 100 questions? Okay,
well, I'm going to start again. I think the MBE nutshell video, I put a lot of work into this to make it work. And I know you, Megan, you and your editors worked hard on these nutshells to get the principles that control multi-state questions. If you wanted to squeeze down a multi-state 6-hour subject or an 8-hour subject into 25 minutes, that's what we've done. There's no fluff at all. So if you're taking the exam next week, this is the product that you should be doing. If you're taking the exam September or October, this is the product that you should be using. I think that's one way to really work it. I don't think in general doing a lot of full-length exams is a big advantage right now.
And our last question for today gave a great question in the chat box that I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, which is, how can I stay focused? I have been so distracted. I'm sure she's not in that.
Yeah, I totally get it. That's why I'm doing the masterclass tomorrow. I know that you're saying, wait, he's giving me more stuff to think about. I'm doing it because it meets a need. Okay. And the need is, I know that you're distracted. I know you're unfocused. I know you're upset. I know that you are battered by all of the craziness. I mean, at every level, the craziness. Are my kids going to school? What's going on in the world? What's happening with social justice? What's happening with the bar exam? I mean, it's a lot. But here's the ultimate truth. If you are living in the present, I don't mean thinking backwards, and I don't mean projecting into the future, but you are living in the present. You have enormous power in the present, and you have enormous power in your feelings without labeling them. And being able to use that power of the present to calm your mind and to use your feelings gives you the power and ability to make your study much, much better. So what I've done is to create the masterclass. What I've done is to create in one place, one setting, where you can get the tools and techniques that you can use, some of which take as little as 90 seconds to actually start employing and using. If you are feeling overwhelmed, you're normal, you're human, you're in with the rest of us. But I wanted to give you a set of tools that were practical and actionable that would let you get your studies to a higher plane instantly, and then be able to do that and repeat it and make it work better for you. It is, I think, an extraordinary time that we're in. And so we've tried to provide the tools and resources that would make that happen. I'm pretty confident there's not another bar review anywhere in the country that's even thought about that, much less done anything with it. I've had the real privilege of working with Paul Sheely at Learning Strategies very closely to develop this. And I don't think you're going to be disappointed if you're on that webinar. So please join us tomorrow. I'm not trying to sell you more stuff. I'm trying to solve a problem for you. And I think that's one way to do it. Short of that, I don't know, you put on earplugs, keep your head down, wear a mask, turn off the television, don't watch the press conferences from anybody, and keep doing what you got to do. And we will keep telling you here on this Q&A, on our podcast, in the course, the things that you do need to know about the bar exam. And I think that's just incredibly important to be able to do that.
Get focused too and know that you're not alone in it. We're here. I mean, I know Jackson alluded to this, it's most bar reviews, that's fine. It's here's your materials and sit and watch this video lecture and that's fine. That's what they're doing and great. And it helps people pass. We recognize that our students, oftentimes there are circumstances and situations in your life and baggage you have with the bar that you're coming to this with. That's not sufficient for you. It's just not sufficient. And there's a lot of people, so it's not anything bad. It's just the reality. That's not enough. And so we really care deeply about all of you. It's why we do things like these webinars. It's why we do the group coaching. It's why we try to make it as personal as we possibly can. We do the individualized coaching. We add in these webinars and master classes and things because we genuinely do care. We want you to succeed and we want you to not lose your sanity in the midst of that quest to pass the bar. So we're here for you. You guys are doing great and you've got a lot of time, most of you, until your next exam. Use it wisely and don't let all the noise from the outside come in. Just as much as you can, try to just find something that calms you and steadies you and centers you and focus on that. And I know it's hard, but we're here. We're here.
Yeah, well said. For those of you taking the bar exam next week, good luck. Safe travels, wear your mask, be healthy, stay calm, do all the things that good common sense require. And then the exam will be over and you'll probably feel very good while everybody else is still studying for months to come. For those of you who've had your exams pushed back, continue to study, continue to move forward and to do the things that you need to do. Look forward to seeing many of you on the masterclass. So lots of stuff there to help you and to help you succeed. So hope everybody has a great week. If there are major changes next week, we will let you know that. I'm expecting more of the same, certainly in terms of more states moving to October 5th and 6th, but I think we've heard from most of the big states now. So I think it'll start to calm down just a little bit in that regard. Thanks all of you for being here today. I appreciate that you stuck with us and have a great weekend. We'll see many of you tomorrow in the masterclass. And for all of us, we'll just say bye-bye for now.
Bye. Good luck, everyone.
Well, I hope that's been helpful for you. I know we covered a lot of ground, a lot of territory and states there, and all the different things that are going on. I want to remind you that we've got an update for all of that on our website. Just go to celebrationbarreview.com, look for the menu item called Fall 2020 Exam Updates, and you will see every jurisdiction listed with links to the orders and public announcements that they've made regarding their status. And of course, this information is changing constantly, so you want to make sure you stay on top of that. Finally, before we go, I want to just remind you that our free training webinar, Now is the Best Time to Take the Bar Exam, is coming up. It's totally free to sign up. All you have to do is click on the link in the show notes or go to celebrationbarreview.com/now. It'll be a look at the strategy that you should be following if you're taking the exam in fall of 2020 or in February of 2021. And it's followed with a live Q&A to answer any questions that you might have. So I hope I'll see you on that webinar soon. And then finally, our multi-state bar exam nutshell videos. Make sure you check out the link in the show notes there. I think it's a product you're going to find really helpful. All right, well, we've got a long way now to go till October, but of course, for some people, the bar exam is just in a few days, and we wish those of you taking the exam in person around the country in July of 2020 the very best of luck on your tests. Good luck to you for every part of this journey, the travel, your health, your safety, and of course, a good exam result. And we'll be back to you again next week. We'll update you on everything that's going on. Undoubtedly, there'll be lots more changes. And until then, we'll see you along the extra mile.
Thanks for listening and watching the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at celebrationbarreview.com.